Hello, Home Slices. It's Kiera with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with, I don't know if this is going to be a new series, y'all. The past few years, I have been getting my degree, getting my master's degree in business administration, and my YouTube channel has really been on the back burner, and so has my social media. So, um, I have been trying to find ways to remain active, and YouTube and my social media just really are put on the back burner. So, I think I want to start this new series. We'll see how long it goes. We'll see if this series becomes a single video that I never think about again. But whatever. I want to start doing reviews for really old shows, which I thought it was good, which would be a good idea, like new reviews for super old shows, right? So, um, Peacock is a new app. Unfortunately, all of the networks are wising up and realizing that streaming is the future, and now they are creating their own apps, and that means shelling out more money, um, which once you add up all of your monthly accounts adds up to a cable bill, right? So like after Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, uh, what else? Paramount's coming out with their own thing. All the streaming stuff, right? After you add it all up, it adds up to a cable bill, and we still have cable. And the reason why we have Peacock for free is because we got it through our cable. So if we get rid of the cable, we got to pay for the Peacock. It's just one big circle, one big circle. Anyways, the show that I decided to review that I found on Peacock, because I was sick of looking through the regular apps like Hulu and Netflix to find a new show to watch, I came across Murder, She Wrote, which I know is a very popular show or whatever. And so I was like, you know what? I'm a big fan of like murder mysteries and mystery novels and stuff along those lines, and whodunits, right? So I was like, you know what? I want to watch this show. And so I was kind of bored over the weekend or whatever, and I started watching it. And I really like this show, but we're going to dissect it a little bit more. And I'm just going off the top of my head. So, Murder, She Wrote is a story of, um, shoot, I can't even think of her name. The actress's name is Angela Lansbury, and she's playing Jessica Fletcher, who is a widow. They don't give her age range, but if I'm guessing, she would probably be in her late 50s, early 60s. Very bad at guessing the age of old white ladies. However, she kind of miraculously in the first episode of the show, she's like writing novels to fill her time. She's a retired substitute teacher or retired school teacher or something like that, and her husband is dead, so she's just kind of filling her time with hobbies and whatnot. And one of her hobbies, while she is in her home of Cabot Cove, Maine, is writing a mystery novel. And so her nephew sees this novel, really likes it. She has these wonderful powers of deduction, this ability to write stories that, hide the person who actually did the murder in a way that's very entertaining to people. And so her nephew submits the manuscript that he read of hers to a publisher, and she starts her novel writing career. And so basically her novel writing career takes her all across the country, and outside of the country too, because I think one of the episodes takes place in the UK. So anyways, here are a few things that I noticed. First off, I'm really into this show just because, like I said, I'm really into the Encyclopedia Brown, Sherlock Holmes type of situation. It reminds me a little bit of Monk, without the quirkiness of like all of Monk's emotional and mental problems, right? So, she is an older woman. She runs a lot, so she's physically fit. The show came out in 1984, so of course there are going to be some issues with it, right? It's not as diverse as I would like for it to be. Okay, so that's just, saying one thing. Um, Very few stories to do with people of color. In the first season, again, this is just a review of the first season, there was one episode that took place in New Orleans, and it involved jazz musicians, and then that involved some black people, and those black people were mostly familiar faces, mostly oh boy from I don't remember his real name, but he played like Cochise, I think, in one of Spike Lee's films, and he was in it. And then the guy who was the boxer from Harlem Nights was in it, I think, too. So there were some familiar faces there. Oh, and the guy, his name is Garrett, I think, the guy who played Jamie Foxx's uncle in the Jamie Foxx show. So, right. So, anyways, so there are some black people who are on here. Some of the black people work in law enforcement. Some of them are in service roles. I'm trying to recall, there are hardly any Asian people. And when I say Asian, I mean all Asians. I don't know, Pacific Islanders. Yeah, no, nobody's coming to mind. So the show could be more diverse, but again, it's 1984, so that's just, one criticism. The second criticism is that she has like a lot of relatives. She has like a lot of nieces and nephews, because a lot of the places that she goes on the show are supposed to be the fact that she's a mystery novel writer and that she has this reputation for having good deductive skills. Is kind of like a cover to explain why she's in all these different places, because her home base is in Cabot Cove, Maine, but only maybe out of the 23 episodes that are in the first season, I would say probably 4 of those episodes actually maybe took place in Cabot Cove. All the other places are places that she had to travel to do like press for her books, or she's visiting a niece or nephew or a family friend. And she got a lot of friends, okay? And they live all across the country, and a bunch of nieces and nephews and whatnot. So there's that. So somebody is always getting murdered where she is, which I understand that's the premise of the show. It's also kind of weird. Everywhere you go, somebody's getting murdered. And that's the difference between this show and like Monk, right? Like, so in this show, she's visiting someplace to do press, or visiting a family member, or going to a friend's birthday party or whatever, or going to an award show, and somebody ends up dying. And that's like that. It is impossible that every time this woman goes somewhere, there's a freaking murder. But when you think about other shows, like I really like comparing it to Monk. It feels very similar to me. When I think about Monk, there are moments where a murder happens and Monk gets called into the case. He's not physically there when it goes down, right? Like it feels more real. So it feels more real for there to be a murder and then Monk be called in to help solve that murder than for her to be in a place where the murder happens like every time 23 times over one season. Okay, but I understand why the show was a big hit. There are a lot of people that I recognize, in Blanche from Golden Girls was in an episode, and I didn't realize it was her until she spoke. So there are people that I recognize. So I feel like the show pretty much holds up. And because it's a murder mystery show, they have to provide additional details so that Jessica Fletcher has something to draw from, right? And because they provide those extra details to highlight Jessica's powers of deduction, it also means that we have all the details that we need. And just because this takes place in 1984 doesn't mean that it's lost on us. I was born in 1990 and I was able to keep up, and there was really nothing on the show that I was like, I don't know what that is. So I feel like the show does hold up to today. I like the show. I think it's good. I think there are some funny moments. I feel like the TV magic is because of so far, how technology has come so far since this time. There are things where I'm like, girl, that's the background. Like, that's not the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. That is a backdrop, okay? But besides those little technical things, I really like the show. I think it's really interesting. Again, I love a good whodunit. And if you are bored, there are 12 seasons of this show. The first season had 23 episodes. So if we do an average of 20 episodes per season, that is 240 episodes. I'm going to be watching this show for a long time. And so, yeah, that's my review for the first season of Murder, She Wrote. If you are into those types of shows, I suggest you watch it. If you watched it when it came out, it's a good way for you to kind of relive things, get some nostalgia, see some people you haven't seen in a long time, maybe play a game where you're like, do you recognize this actor? What else was this actor in? You know, a lot of people are a part of this. A lot of people who have been acting for a very long time, you get to see them as they were younger people. So it's a good time. It's a fun watch. I almost never figure out who the murderer is before Jessica, and it holds up. So this is my first installment of new reviews for old ass shows. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and share with somebody who you think will enjoy it. Peace out. All right, y'all. So earlier I had mentioned about how the show didn't depict a whole bunch of people of color. Again, it was made in 1984. Diversity was not as important as it is today, or I mean, it has always been important, is what I'm saying. It hasn't been important to people in the media, is what I'm saying. But so they haven't had as many depictions of Black people or Hispanic people or Asian people or other people of color. So that was one criticism, but I did not talk about the impact of gender on this show. And so, of course, this is a show about a woman, but there is virtually no edge to her. I feel like they chose this old widow or older widow, you know, I don't, you know, not being ageist or anything like that. I think that they chose this older widow because she is as innocuous as they come. She has virtually no edge to her. Everything about her is so vanilla that you're basically always on her side. And the thing that I like about newer things that have come out is that they allow the main characters to be humans in a way that these older shows have not. And so when I think about over the course of the 23 episodes, maybe there were 2 possible love interests that she had. One of them was the murderer, so that's why he was interested in her. And she had mentioned that things were going too well with him and she was suspicious of him, right? So that was one thing. But the point is that she is this woman who has fond memories of her husband, and I don't know what happens later on in the show, but at least for this first season, when they're, you know, doing their initial impressions of the Jessica Fletcher character, she's so vanilla, like you really can't find anything wrong with her. She doesn't have any vices, almost no human qualities. She's just this old white woman who is really smart and good with, you know, has really good deductive skills. So that's one criticism, that she's not a well-rounded out character. She's just this character who is not really interested in relationships. She's or romantic relationships. She, you know, has fond memories of her husband who has passed away, and now she's visiting family members, and she has a new career as a writer. And again, it's very vanilla. So moving on. So that's one criticism. Another criticism I have, and I don't want you all to quote me on this, but from my recollection, for the first 23 episodes of this show in the first season, there are at least one murder victim per episode, right? At least one per episode. If I recall correctly, none of the murder victims were women. Now, you may be saying like, oh, you know, Kiera, isn't that good? And I would venture to say no. Because the thing is I feel like it is a patriarchal thought that we can't depict a woman dying, right? Even though people die every day. And when I say people, I mean all types of people. Men, women, non-binary, they die every day. It is a natural human thing. Everybody and everything dies, right? Everybody dies. And not depicting women as dying is portraying them as these dainty things that you know, they just can't die. And it's like, that's just not true. Removing the human quality of death from a woman is just weird. And it's especially weird because many times women die at the hands of men. So I think that it is, again, kind of a sign of the times, where the times were then. I think it is problematic that none of the victims were women, especially considering how women die all the freaking time and women are murdered all the time and often at the hands of men. But that's, you know, we'll leave that alone. And another thing I think kind of goes into that category is that there were not enough people who were trying to attack Jessica. Like, Jessica was out here solving murders, catching people up, helping the police, and there were only maybe a handful of times where she was attacked or injured for being all up in police business, okay? And it's like, I feel too often the people were willing to go to the police, right? It's like, oh, I'm just going to go turn myself in. And it's like, no, I'm going to kill you, old lady. Like, that part didn't make sense to me. There were only a handful of times where people were like, oh, no, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to make it look like somebody broke in and you're going to die peacefully. And of course, because she has these powers of deductive reasoning, she has backup, right? Standing by most of the time. But there are these just unreal moments where people are like, I'm just going to turn myself in. And it's like, are you kidding me? This is an old lady and you could probably easily get the best of her. And you're not going to try to attack so that you can escape? Okay. So the part of it just feels unrealistic, right? But moving on. And lastly, I feel like the funny thing is that Jessica Fletcher in most of these situations is showing up at the cops, right? And I think that is kind of funny, and because police work is a male-dominated industry, and if I can recall throughout the seasons, I can only recall one female deputy who actually works in Cabot Code, but she's showing up these male police officers all the time. So I think that's pretty cool as far as gender goes. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace out, home slices.